Hello, everyone. It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth. Today is Monday. It's October 21st, and returning to the show today is John Kueber. He's the CEO of Nevis Brands. Great to have you back on, John. How are things?
Things are great, Rod. Thanks for having me back. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time today. Excited. Obviously, had some fantastic earnings. We'll discuss your Q3 2024 performance, and then something that I'm really excited about, or was very excited about when I saw the article, was the hemp drinks. So it seems to be very popular among a lot of the operators right now, both from a Canadian and a US perspective. Seems like hemp drinks are kind of stealing the show these days, but excited to get your thoughts and opinions on that category, and obviously touch base on the earnings. You had a fantastic quarter. You had an impressive 345% increase in EBITDA. That came to $104,746. The company also saw a shift to positive net income. I think it was a loss. You had a loss of about $64,000, and this came in at positive $27,000 and change. Company had a 9% increase, and revenues of $474,000. Gross margin was 71% versus 67% of the prior quarter. What was the reason behind this? You mentioned growing revenues, obviously the higher margins, just lower expenses. Is that kind of what drove this significant financial?
Yeah, all three of those, but I'll drill down. Those are the usual suspects that usually improve your results. But drilling down a little bit on the growth in revenue, we've been continually adding states. For those of you who've been following us, when we started a year and change ago, we had really 4 or 5 states in operation. Now we have 11 states under license. All those states are in various stages of development. Some are mature, some have just launched, some actually have yet to launch. So as our newer states progress and our operators get into market, we see revenues grow, because we see it almost every time, not every time, but almost every time a major gets into a market. There's a month or 2 or sometimes 4 of sort of moderate sales, but once dispensaries start to see that this is a popular product, they have more confidence in making bigger purchase orders, and our partners make more money and we make more money. So some of that dynamic was happening in 2 or 3 of the states where we're relatively new. We continue to maintain a strong position in Washington, which is still our biggest market for major. Then on the expense and operating side, it's been a continual initiative of ours to get better deals from our suppliers, to get more efficient on how we get our partners' product. We do supply the packaging and some of the ingredients for our drinks. We've just gotten better at that, gotten better pricing, and gotten more efficient at it. And then there's just a couple of unusual expenses that seem to happen in the first year of operating a company that we're able to finally avoid this quarter, and able to pull a result together. So really pleased. It's a big milestone for us, not just to triple EBITDA, but turn that corner, even after taking out the amortization and so forth, to be able to turn that corner into positive net income. So we're really proud of the result.
Absolutely. I've been following the story for quite a while now, and it's been exciting to watch. And like I said, always loved the beverage category, something I think that's super undervalued. And I know we mentioned this last time, the cash. You said you weren't really worried about your cash position last time. I did notice that at the beginning of the period, it was $418,000. Currently, at the end of the period, $115,000. I took a look through the MD&A, management discussion and analysis, and it says the company's not really concerned about its ability to cover its expenses over the next year. Is that still the case in your opinion?
It is still the case. I mean, we never like being a little bit low on cash. Reason we are low on cash is we take most of what we earn and use it to pay down a note. When we've taken down owing $500,000 and change on a note to the seller of this business that we bought it from, and brought that down to $275,000. So we're paying down that note pretty aggressively. We're able to maintain enough cash to be able to operate our business comfortably. Obviously, when you're positive enough money coming in, you're able to do that with a little more confidence. We'll examine opportunities to potentially get more capital into the company. For right now, we're pretty pleased to be able to do it through our earnings, and we're able to grow despite being not as deep a balance sheet as I would like, or maybe some of our investors would like. But it's not a cause of concern for us, because when you're profitable, it creates options to be able to raise capital if and when you need it.
Gotcha. And right now you're in 9 states, fully operational, right? And then there's Michigan pre-production, and then New Jersey's pre-production planning. So 11, there's 11 sort of ready to go, but 9 that are operational, 2 in pre-production. Is that correct?
That's correct. 11 under license, 9 that are operating, 2 that we're, just dealing with the aggravating approvals process in those states. Losing a little bit of patience in one of those states, but that's all right. Yeah, 1 or 2 more states that we have our eye on to actually potentially even get in before the end of this year.
Okay, cool. And then obviously there'll be some entries into other states through the hemp drinks. We'll get into that in just a moment. I noticed as well that on September 4th, you launched Major Gummies in Oregon. And then the initial sales, I think that started the second week of September, correct? So
Correct.
they wouldn't be on this financial, they'd be on the next one.
A little bit of gummy revenue was on this financial. I wouldn't say nonplussed. I'd say that we're seeing our gummy acceptance happening, not happening at a rate that we're used to, and not happening at a rate that we would like. We're used to going to market with our drinks, getting semi-immediate acceptance, and just taking off. It doesn't happen, like I said, every time, but we're a little bit spoiled when it comes to our beverages and people being excited to see them. The gummy market is competitive. The gummy market is something where, yes, we have a brand that people recognize and the buyers recognize and that you're able to get into stores. It's extremely price competitive, just like most of cannabis, but it's a tougher entry. So, I'm not ready to say that we have had a successful gummy launch. Not saying the opposite either. I'm not saying we've had a unsuccessful launch. It's one of those where we're launching, we're a month or 2 into it. We're seeing our market develop, but I wish it was faster, like everything. But we're finding it to be a little more challenging than drinks.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely way more competition. It's a lot further ahead as well than, say, the beverage category, right? And then that kind of leads me into, so the beverages in HD9, those are something that, it seems like every month or so there's a new company getting their HD9 formulations ready, and it's a mix of beverages and edibles. So you announced your entry into this category, and that was through a licensing agreement with Stash House Distribution. And
Right.
is there anything you can tell us about this deal? Was there anything that stood out about Stash House, and why exactly did the company select them?
Yeah, two or three things can go into that conversation. So we work with Stash House already in Missouri, Mississippi, under license with them in New Jersey, and our business runs on great products and great partners. We have a great product, so we spend a lot of time choosing great partners. When you have a great partner, you can do so many things. You can deal with ambiguity, you can deal with challenges. You just overcome when you're dealing with sort of that mutual shared trust, and we've built that with Stash House over the last few months in entering Missouri, Mississippi, and so on. So when Stash House started talking with us about entering the D9 market together, we couldn't think of a better partner. I mean, we were looking to enter the D9 market either ourselves, potentially through another partner, potentially through some other mechanisms. This one, because of the history of operating and working with Stash House, we just felt a lot of comfort. And in terms of, we had a choice between doing D9 ourselves or doing D9 with a partner and doing our typical license deal. Big reason why we chose to work with Stash House is they already have an established channel. They've spent the last 6 months to a year developing, marketing, doing social media, building a customer base of I don't think I can say publicly because they're private, but they have a very well-established e-commerce store for direct-to-consumer. Right. They also have some great established relationships with wholesalers. So we saw the speed of entry to this market and a de-risking of this market as a big reason to work with them. So I'll maybe just actually riff off the last topic of gummies. I've said I wanted to see quicker adoption, faster growth of gummies. We're, about a week into it with D9. This is a great market. We're already doing extremely well. you don't want to be too quick to judge after just 1 week, but this is going to be just a fantastic market for us. And I mean, if you don't mind me just sort of carrying on with the topic of D9 and the question, I mean,
Absolutely.
D9, some people are treating as like, oh, this is like another beverage feature, or like, oh, you're launching a drink with CBN. I'm not sure the market, I'm not sure investors, not just with Nevis, but in overall cannabis market, I don't know if everybody's fully digested what hemp-derived THC means for this market. It's not just a new product. It's not just like, oh, another territory for Nevis. This is, it's pretty big for our business. It's pretty big for anyone in the industry who's embracing D9. And I mean, I can get carried away with scenarios where D9 does become the tip of the spear that leads to more widespread adoption and legalization. But there's a lot of reasons to see why actually beverages and D9 could really help with that, because, you know, it falls sort of under the same analog as TTB and some other things. What's happening in D9 and what's happening with being able to sell direct to the consumer and being able to get into, I would say, well, it's traditional retail. I mean, it's still somewhat regulated, right, some liquor stores and smoke shops, but to be in those kinds of environments, it's gigantic for the industry, it's gigantic for the consumer. And again, 1 week into it, we can already see that D9 isn't just one prong in our company. This is becoming a really important, I believe it will become one of the cornerstones of our revenue in our company.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, so e-commerce right now, I brought up the website there momentarily. It was the Goldfish, so goldfishdistro.com. And right now, is that the only way consumers can buy it? Or I know you mentioned that in your commentary that they are going to eventually be in traditional retail locations such as liquor stores and smoke shops. Is that the case today, or is it just online via e-commerce at the moment?
It's both, although I can't yet state the exact places where it's on shelves and for sale in the traditional locations. If we connect in a month or 2 months, I'll probably have a list of the usual suspects where you can actually go in and buy Major physically. But yeah, goldfishdistro.com is right now the exclusive distributor of Major online. Thanks for showing this. You know, brief plug. You can buy Major for $21.99 a unit, 100 milligrams. You can also get a 3-pack for about $47. It's shipped direct to your door, except in the regulated markets where we're already active, and that includes, you know, Washington, Oregon, Colorado, Missouri. We're shipping to markets. There's a little bit of overlap on markets where like California, where we're sort of approaching that carefully, given the Newsom ban. But there's markets where there's a very specific, you know, Iowa, good example also, where the very specific ban on hemp D9, and we believe strongly in abiding by the law, and so we're not shipping to those states. But in states where it's legal to ship hemp, you know, we shipped orders to, you know, Utah, Oklahoma, bunch of fun states where I never thought we'd be shipping cannabis, and it was really cool to see those orders come through.
Yeah, I think a lot of it kind of blindsided a lot of people as well, right? And especially, you know, retail investors. A lot of people say, oh, you'll never see you know, MJ products go across the border, and you know, we're already seeing Canadian companies start to get into the space, so it's very competitive. Like you said, kind of touching on the edible market, it seems like the HD9 business is getting very competitive as well, and I can assume it will only get more competitive as time goes on. But if you know, you mentioned in a month or two you might be able to give more details, but if I'm a consumer and I'm in the US and I'm looking to find HD9 beverages from Major in the US at, say, a retail location, is there going to be a place where I can go and find a retailer online?
A retailer that you know online, probably not, because we'll send you to Goldfish Distro to make that purchase online. But I mean, you know, there's places like Specs and Total Wine that are carrying hemp-derived beverages, and we expect to be on those shelves soon. Okay. I just can't say that we're there yet, because we're still going through wholesale orders and a little bit of negotiation, and we just don't know quite yet. I mean, I saw,
Yeah.
like I say, the initial influx of orders. That was exciting. But the real bigger wholesale orders, they're right in the doorstep, but I just can't see where they're going to be yet.
Fair enough. Yeah, we can get an update in a month or two, like you said. And touching on Stash House one more time, is that's an exclusive agreement? Is that going to be them, like the end all be all? Is that going to be them like 100% of the time, or are you looking at adding additional licensees eventually, or how is that structured?
Uh, at the moment, they are our exclusive licensee of the major brand, 100 milligram major brand in the United States.
Okay.
So, you know, do we plan to look at other opportunities? Any company or capitalist is always going to look and see what other opportunities there are to do deals with other brands or other opportunities. But for right now, we see our deal with Stash House as being enough for our entry into D9. I mean, there's fully baked with full volume. This, we're not there yet. I'm not even saying the 1 week trajectory makes us be there, but I really see this as potentially becoming our biggest market. Not potentially. I see a path where this becomes our biggest state, if you will, just because we've been operating state by state. This becomes our biggest state category within our company. And I believe we could do that with Stash House alone, with this opportunity alone, selling through Goldfish, going to wholesalers, focusing on major. That by itself is a huge opportunity, but that's not the end of the D9 opportunity as we see it. There's only so much you can do at any given time. And, we're still operating all of our reg markets. We're still very proud of our reg markets. They're very important to us. They've been important to our growth and our profitability. So we're not, we think we're unique in that there's a lot of companies that are jumping to D9 who have never been in the cannabis industry. They're just like, oh, we have run a soft drink and we're going to make a D9 drink. Or we're a beer brewer, we're going to do D9 because it's going crazy in Minneapolis or Minnesota. And then you have people who are in the reg industry, in the dispensary market, who, are fighting D9 tooth and nail because they have capital invested and they don't want to see what this product type can do to their invested infrastructure. And, who knows, lobbying has amazing powers sometimes. But I don't see this one. I don't see this genie going back in the bottle without some pretty serious, hard regulation, which also could happen. I mean, we're not discounting that. That's why we're also maintaining our reg markets. But I think there will be regulation on D9. There'll be more regulation on D9. My prediction, our company's prediction, is that D9 is not going to be banned, but it will be further regulated, and it should be. We'd love to see rules. We'd love to see guidelines. We're making this up with best guesses on FDA guidelines and so on, but I don't think there's anyone in the industry that would not want some straightforward, easy to understand rules in this industry.
Exactly. And a lot of it was unintentional, right? When they crafted the farm bill, just goes to show you kind of what these lawmakers really know at the end of the day and the homework that they did. But that was actually I have got quite a few questions around the whole confusion and ambiguity that this creates. But I think you answered my question, but maybe just real quick, do you think it's a fad, or do you think it's here to stay, the HD9 business?
I believe it's here to stay. I don't believe it's a fad. I mean, unless lawmakers make it not a fad. I think Newsom sort of did that overnight in California. So it's possible to make the fad. But in terms of consumer tastes and preferences, to be able to buy a form of THC that arrives on their doorstep, that's not a fad. And to have more choices for the consumer, that's not a fad. I mean, the product type is not a fad. It's just whether or not lawmakers do something with it.
Right. And what has been the response so far? I know you're only about a week into this thing, but have you heard, has there been multiple, repeat buys? Have you been getting reviews from the products? What has been the consumer response thus far?
Yeah. So repeat buys we haven't seen, because again, it's only been a week. Although we do have consumers of major and our reg markets who purchase every couple of days. So I wouldn't be surprised to see someone come back within the first week. I think it was just more, when we turn this on, when Goldfish and us turned this on, we saw immediate purchase activity. We saw immediate wholesale purchase activity. And it was, it was exciting to see the volume. I don't want to say the exact number of orders, but we're just really pleased with it. Reviews, haven't had them yet. And actually, I don't think Goldfish has a review mechanism on their site. Hopefully we start to show up on some other sites. All that'll be a work in progress in terms of getting those things going. But all you can ask for in the first week is to have that initial influx of orders from,
Right.
I guess, what I would call Goldfish Nation. And we're pleased so far.
Right. Yeah, I didn't see any area on here where it had any kind of reviews, but shipping update, these are all the states currently that it's available in. That kind of brings me to my next question. Are you able to state how many states you're currently shipping to? Is basically all those in the green good to go in terms of right now?
There's there's about 20 plus states with no restrictions. And then you tack on about another 15 that we can ship to, but with some restrictions.
Okay.
There's about 8 where it's explicitly banned, and about another 5 that we just don't ship to for a number of reasons. But look, this market, again, most of us in cannabis come from sometimes too much of a scarcity mentality of like, oh, we're stuck in our state, we've got to fight these other people for shelf space. I mean, the cool thing about this market is, Texas is a country. If there was 4 of these states, Texas, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, that's a lot of market right there. And without giving up too much of our strategy, we're not focused on covering. We'll ship to these states in terms of our targeting and our marketing. There's certain states that we have our eye on that we think are really important for D9 consumers. And you have to focus your marketing dollars in certain places. And we believe that we need to choose certain spots and win in certain spots.
Gotcha. And yeah, because I've seen there's a few different companies that were launching hemp drinks, and some said 25 states were available. I saw other numbers came in at like 19 states. So I just didn't see like any kind of consistency there. It seems to be kind of all over the map, but I guess we'll see, as there's a lot of, like you say, with California, the intoxicating cannabinoids, obviously, especially in a place like California where it's fully legal, there's a lot of concern there, I guess you could say, from a regulatory standpoint and then a competitive standpoint. So yeah, I'm just, how do you feel about that, with regards to markets that are full blown legal with regards to adult use at the state level, and then the hemp beverages? Like, is that something that, are we going to see more of what California is doing? Because like, to me, it's not really fair to these producers who have gone through the regulatory gauntlet and spent, millions of dollars, acquiring a license. And now, anybody can, potentially get into the HT9 beverage, well, not just beverages, but in the HT9 business. And it's essentially kind of, giving them, all kinds of tax breaks. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think there could be more states follow suit?
I believe there's going to be more bans on D9 with regulated markets, sort of like what California did and Washington's done. You can't ship to our home state. For our test orders, we had to ship to a friendly in a different state. So I do think there's going to be more follow suit, and I agree with you. I think that for now, especially, cannabis is still a relatively new industry. Promises were made to people to make investments.
Yeah,
states should respect those investments and keep their promises. We're very successful here in Washington, as I've said before. And if all of a sudden HT9 showed up on liquor store shelves, we'd be upset. We've spent a lot of time and paid a lot of taxes to be in this market. So, no, I'm in agreement with that. I do think there's a happy medium where, well, you're in Canada. My early days are in Canada. probably remember the old days where you had to go to a liquor store to buy liquor, and then I think the way it is in Canada now, you can buy beer in a lot of beer stores, but you still have to go to the liquor store. But I think a hybrid approach to that could work, where you let ultra low dose D9 drinks get on the market. I mean, for example, if I'll even just sort of go extreme, if they allowed 1.5% or 2% drinks to be sold in liquor stores, I think that's fair. I don't think you're taking away the market of the reg market. Reg market is going for the cannabis enthusiasts, people who want the effects. What Minnesota is doing with very limited doses, I think it becomes a really good template. They've done a great job there. I mean, and you see the stats. You see people drinking less alcohol, which is better for public health. They're not destroying the alcohol industry. Obviously, they're not destroying the cannabis industry because it's not legal. It wasn't legal there before, but Minnesota is onto something in terms of what they've rolled out. Anyway, I digress. I believe that reg states should be protected, but I do think there's a framework to maybe allow those reg states to succeed and protect those markets while still allowing D9 to have some presence.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought about kind of allowing certain lower potencies in, kind of the mainstream outlets, and then restricting the other higher potency ones to, like I say, like a dispensary or something like that, right? That's a good point. Yeah, I just always had mixed feelings about it because, it definitely doesn't seem fair that, all these companies who have been weathering the storm and, they've been fighting tooth and nail to gain market share and licenses, and then, essentially come in with a similar product that has similar effects. Like, obviously, you're not going to get the exact same effect from a THC perspective from hemp derived as you would regular, right? But personally, I haven't even consumed any of the HD9 products yet, so I'd like to.
I mean, don't let the hemp word confuse you. I mean, if you have 10 milligrams of HD9 THC and 10 milligrams of what I'll call traditional THC, it's different, but really not less potent. It's just slightly different high. It's still 10 milligrams of THC. I mean, it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I watched like a video not too long ago. It was like basically they got a bunch of people, like 6 people on one side, 6 people on the other, and they gave them a bunch of vapes, and they didn't tell them if it was D9 or regular, and most of them couldn't. I'd say like probably 25% of them couldn't tell the difference, or sorry, 75% of them couldn't tell the difference. And they kind of monitored their reaction time and things like that afterwards, and it was pretty similar for the most part. But yeah, excited to try them out. There's something, I don't think we can get them in Canada yet. That's something that might come in the future. I just thought of that here. I was on a couple websites. It seems like they only ship within the United States, but it'll be interesting to see, because I haven't seen any hemp derived products here in Canada yet. That might be a completely untapped market as well. Might be for yourself even.
Probably, yeah. But I think the novelty of not the novelty is the wrong word. That the opportunity for D9 is that, I mean, hemp derived THC wouldn't exist if we were federal legal. We would just ship cannabis across state lines. And because Canada is not state by state, it's federal legal. I'd be surprised if unless people, it's something different to try. It's like another strain, but I don't think it would take off quite the way that it is taking off here in the U.S. And yeah, I mean, I just think Canada is already well served from province to province, the availability. The U.S. doesn't have that, and that's why there's this opportunity.
Right. Yeah, and I always have to wonder too, like how much of this is, kind of trying to, I guess I'll choose my words carefully here, but you got to think of the incumbents, right? Like I've saw some studies with regards to, the big pharma industry and how this is sort of the new frontier for them, and obviously big alcohol, big tobacco companies, and with all these high excise taxes, 280E, it frustrates me. Just like I said, based on, people who have gone through the regulatory process to get their license. And then now you have all these hemp companies that are coming up. that don't have to go through all of those same, types of processes. But, how much of this is just trying to kind of weed out all of, no pun intended, all of the small producers, like the average Joe and Jane. It's almost as if they're just trying to stall it as long as possible so that big pharma, alcohol, and tobacco can catch up. But yeah, it doesn't seem fair for sure. And I always wonder how much of this is really to protect the consumer, or how much of this is really to protect, the ones that are being disrupted.
It always seems to be a bit of both. For better or worse, I'm a fan of analogies, and if you look back at telecom, when I'm old enough to have lived through when landlines and people having mobile phones, and
Mhm.
the first providers of mobile phones and mobile phone plans were companies that people nowadays would never have heard of.
Yeah.
It wasn't AT&T, it wasn't Bell, it was these random Star Tech company. I can't remember all the names, but weird companies that sold these mobile phones. And
Yeah.
I think probably I wasn't in the industry, but I saw enough of it. I mean, I think for 3, 4, 5 years, they didn't know how to regulate it. They didn't know how to tax it. They didn't know how to protect the consumer. Ultimately, they caught up. Ultimately, existing players were bought out by the biggies, and now it's just the default way of how we communicate using phones. It's wireless. And in any event, I mean, who was helped during that process? Probably both.
Yeah.
The slowing down process probably helped the incumbents and the bigger companies. The consumer benefited really just from disruptors providing a better service, driving down prices, et cetera, and ultimately probably needed the protections the government provides by the time industry becomes mature. So are we going to have that same path? Probably not the exact same path, but I think there'll be some similarities that it would be interesting to see. Again, for a company our size to go up against a large beverage company who enters the D9 space. Sure, we'd be somewhat daunted, but we probably would be helped. I mean, if everyone uses Coca-Cola as an example, but if Quaker Oats or Procter or someone launched a D9 drink, it would validate our industry. All of a sudden, everything we're doing is not this weird offshoot. Again, we're in the middle of this. To us, this is big. This is still a tiny little business compared to most CPG companies. Certainly they see it. Certainly they see the stats in Minnesota and what this can do to disrupt the alcohol market. It's exciting, but in terms of motivation, I think it's going to be probably another year or two before we see some mid majors get in the game. Red Bull D9, who knows?
Yeah, it's exciting for sure. And like you said, it legitimizes the industry, and it would probably create a flurry of M&A, like mergers and acquisition activity, right? If that were the case. And we definitely need consolidation in the space, and a lot of that, like you say, similar to even the .com days. A lot of the fly-by-night companies that had .com in the end of their name, they didn't stand the test of time, and ultimately got gobbled up by a few conglomerates. But yeah, I think we're on the cusp. I've always believed that the only way we're going to get to like a blue chip phase is after the U.S. legalizes, right? How can we really know who the winners and losers are long term when the world's biggest economy hasn't even legalized it at the federal level yet? So still lots of work to go, and still lots of time. But yeah, it's an exciting time, and that kind of leads me to my next one here. We'll try not to get too political, but we got 2 weeks from tomorrow, the U.S. elections. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, do you think either way, whoever wins, do you think that the industry is going to be, in a better position, or do you think it's pretty much muted? Both candidates have kind of come out and expressed, we had one side of the aisle saying, fully legalize it, and the other saying, more, leave it to more state law, but, supporting Amendment 3 in Florida. That's going to be a huge vote in a couple of weeks as well, which could see enactment at some point in probably the summer of 2025. But yeah, we have some exciting times ahead, and then there's speculation about safe banking. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, do you have any any thoughts on that? Like, do you think there's any one party that's more pro MJ, or do you think it's pretty much both candidates are pretty much equal to the industry?
I think both candidates have been pretty weak in terms of expressing support for the industry. So I guess the first thing I'd say is I don't have faith in either candidate that they are going to be a driver of real change. I still think this is going to come through. I think I said this on my last conversation with you. It's going to come through legislators. It's going to come through some lobbying. Hopefully, whoever wins, they show them some poll numbers and say that America wants this, and Mr. and Mrs. President, you should do this, and they push it through. So I don't see Trump or Harris being a champion of our industry. It's been nice to see actually both of them. I mean, Trump less so, but he did, when Florida was going through its battle. I think it was on his conversation actually with Lex Fridman that he sort of said, yeah, sure, we should legalize this. We should make this happen.
Yeah, medical been
state should do this.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, to have a sitting Republican, 70-year-old plus dude say that, that's something for our industry. I don't think that's happened before. Kamala, she put a lot of people in jail for cannabis. But having said that, it's been nice to see her express support for the industry. And I do believe, the DNC is more cannabis friendly than the right. So, I mean, net, DNC Harris is probably more pro cannabis, but I don't really have faith in either political party. We've been waiting 4 years with a very, very blue government who haven't really done anything except a little bit of sword rattling around rescheduling, which has been nice. But at the end of the day, what's happened? Nothing. So, maybe it's different this time, but in the meantime, blah, 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 we'll keep running our business and just waiting for I do think actually state by state is going to remain, let states, rule on how to do this. Yeah. And maybe some direction from the FDA to rule on hemp and D9 and this new ingredient that goes into beverages. That'd be nice to see. And I think it's reasonable to say that could happen. Are we going to have Canada-like cannabis laws in the next 4 years? I don't think so.
Yeah, I had mixed feelings initially, but I've been saying that I believe that probably 10, 20 days before the election, we're going to see them really start to use the MJ narrative as a way to, especially with swing states being so close now and younger voters. But I'm like you. I think pretty much not too concerned who takes office, to be honest. I think the fact that it's it's not really a voting issue anymore. Both sides are very have come out in support and been vocal about it, very pro. So I think at the end of the day, I would probably say the same. I'd go with the DNC being a little bit more MJ friendly, but they did start rescheduling, so we can at least give them credit for that. And
for sure,
were you surprised by the delay in the hearing or the? Well, I guess it's still going a lot quicker than most people. I remember when I had an interview with Normal, it was Morgan Fox, political director. He said, this could take multiple years, and I didn't really subscribe to that. But even with the delay, it is still progressing a lot faster than most people believed it would. But were you surprised by that hearing?
Surprised, no, but I did think rescheduling would happen this calendar year. Not surprised it didn't happen, but I think 6 months ago, I said to someone that now it seems like sort of in that mode of high debate where this is when laws actually happen, sort of 6 months after someone finds a way to make a deal and jam something through. Election years are always different.
Yeah. And Harris did come out and say, what has been the holdup here, and she's been blaming the DEA. So maybe that'll kind of light a fire again, no pun intended, under their rear end. And hopefully, I saw an article today. They said a final ruling could be published to the Federal Register within 60 days of the hearing. With the actual.
That's outstanding.
It was from the MJ Herald. I had him on the channel, Anthony Martinelli, before actually had him on for an interview. That was when he had a DEA source tell him that it was going to be rescheduled in October. And then I guess the DEA decided to pivot and go a different way and decided that have the hearing. And I think, that's probably a good thing to makes the process follow due process, right? It makes it a lot more bulletproof if there's any kind of litigation or pushback. But yeah, it said in the article, 60 days from the hearing with actual law change coming 30 days after that. So
Wow.
yeah, it said on track to reschedule sometime between January and March of 2025. So
That'd be awesome.
yeah, it seems like it could be right around the corner. And, couple that with, I'm fairly confident that Florida's going to pass. And then we get some sort of banking, and there's so many catalysts on the horizon for the industry. And then, like you say, a lot of the HD9 products, a lot of people didn't even see that coming, and it's just another category. And yeah, I think once we get rescheduling, it'll just be a matter of time before we get full blown legalization. And I don't know. I think I'm hopeful that we can get it done over the next 4 years. I think the economy's probably trending in a not so great direction. So I think, with the help of MJ creating all these jobs, and I think it's going to be one of the best performing, if not the best performing sector over the next few years. But I'm hopeful. I don't want to say this time is different, but I think the next 4 years we might be able to get it done in the U.S.
No, sure, I have some bias. But hopefully you've detected some realism over the course of the conversation. I mean, I don't see our industry and our path always through rose-colored glasses at all. Very, very realistic. But to your point, in terms of the industry has been so fleshed out. Told this field before, again, having gone through, I think, had a .com, sold a .com, and was there on the backside watching a lot of the implosions. No one touched tech for 2-3 years. And now tech is like gigantic, obviously. This business, so many people just walked away. I mean, I was doing a mini road show in Vancouver a couple of days ago, and sentiment is still very, it's tough sentiment by a lot of former cannabis investors in Canada. And it's hard for me to understand, because it's like, with our company, it's like, we're growing. I know a lot of other companies that are growing. There's people making real money. And some people can't believe it, but it's like, no, this industry is real, and the survivors are doing very well. And the smoke and mirrors of overcapitalized companies, everything that went on through, that's done. Like, it's operators now, it's people running great businesses and great people. So, no one cares until everyone cares. I think we're getting pretty close to a lot of people caring. There's more and more. We're really proud to be EBITDA positive, but if people look, there's a number of companies that are positive. Some of the majors and Kronos and so forth, but even some smaller high growth companies that are making money and running responsible balance sheets and great P&Ls. So hopefully the investor market wakes up. Maybe it's rescheduling. Maybe it's a few more success stories, but I don't want to say we're disappointed at the lack of attention that we get for some of the growth that we've had and some of the success that we've had, because we just keep on going, and no one can argue with numbers as long as you keep on growing them.
Exactly.
But having said that, you sort of go, man, if I was in a different industry and grew EBITDA by 3.5%, it'd be a whole different outcome. So. We're patient. We'll keep on grinding and keep on going. And we love what we're doing, and see continued success ahead. But right now that we're not seeing enough people involved in cannabis investing.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, there's good and bad in everything, right? And unfortunately, a lot of people were burned. And I made a post. It was 6 years on the 17th that Canada legalized at the federal level. I can't even believe it, to be honest. But made a post, and a lot of people were very disgruntled, and it was just like, oh, I should have picked a different industry, and I feel the frustration, but just like any other industry, right? There's always been that period where everybody thinks that is this going to make it, and pretty much every single time you see those crazy volatile periods where you have 80-90% corrections from a euphoric blow off top, and then a multi-year bear market, and then it's just up and to the right after that, right? And I know it's been brutal. I'm not going to downplay that, but I think personally, with like AI and crypto, all that stuff, a lot of the same demographic is very interested in MJ as well. And similar to what happened to, if you remember, in 2018 when Canada went on a big run, that was right after the crypto space had topped out as well. And I think something similar. I've always been saying that I think after crypto tops out and AI and big tech, once that sort of trade fades, I think that money's going to want to rotate somewhere, right? And what better place than the MJ industry that's been absolutely destroyed? But like you said, to your point, the numbers are the numbers, and now we can see who the real winners and losers are. And when the tide goes out, you get, the saying goes, you see who's not wearing any pants, right? So appreciate your time. Appreciate your time today, John. Was there anything else you wanted to leave the audience with?
Well, this conversation as usual. Thanks so much for having me and making the time.
My pleasure. Thanks again for joining the show again, and we'll have to have you on in a couple months when we get an update.
Cool. Thanks, Rod.
All right. Cool. Thanks, John.